We the show will be more dystopic in season 2. We intentionally tried to steer away from the traditional Blade Runner, The Road kind of level of dystopia, and Proxy Snyder was a guy who thought, well, I'll try to leave things as much the same as they were in order to give people the best experiences under this occupation. Didn't work out too well for him. There's a new Proxy in town, and the way in which the block is managed changes dramatically. And that was very intentional, and Ryan and I had this kind of plan from the beginning to sort of watch this become progressive, and so this is really the next step of our kind of our world building. I think that the biggest thing that we want to do in season 2 is open up the world. I think in season 2 you'll learn a lot more about the aliens, about how they got here, how they function, what their intention is. A lot of the questions that we set up in season 1 are not going to be hanging as like long-standing mysteries. That's not really, wasn't really our intention. So you'll get a lot of. I think you'll feel like a lot of satisfying answers will be given in season 2.
And all that, or is it going to be more sci-fi?
More sci-fi. I mean, that's something that we really. We didn't want to start there, but there's definitely a much higher sci-fi quotient this year, although it still is grounded and there still is police work, and it's really still functionally a show about, humans subjugating other humans given the opportunity. And so there's this kind of colonization, occupation metaphor that's still very much in play, but the science fiction aspects are definitely ramped up. I think that Lost was a mystery show. We kind of think of our show as a science fiction show crossed with an espionage show crossed with a family drama. So the mysteries are not the critical functioning element of the show. So we will be answering questions probably faster than we did on Lost, because that's not ultimately, the sort of what makes the aliens tick or why are they here isn't really what the show's about. It's about this family trying to survive in a world that's been upended.
We'd like to all have jobs for a long time to come, but Carlton and I have a really good sense of where we want it to end. I think, his great analogy is you set out on a road trip, right, and you leave the East Coast and you're going to drive out to the California coast. That ultimately you want to end up in the California coast, which we do with the show. We have our California coast. The route that you take to get there, you think you're going to set out and go the southern route, but maybe there's a hurricane and you take a dog leg and go some other way. So the fun of the creative process is just figuring out what those little benchmarks, milestones are in between, and how that kind of changes and then ultimately shapes the characters as you get towards your destination. So we do have we have seasons of ideas out in front of us, and we know where it ends. But whether that's 5 or 7, I couldn't tell you at this point. Well, it's much the same way. I mean, this is season 2 is the second leg of this long journey, and we knew going into the season, because we had talked for months before it, where we wanted to land the end of the season. So the trick is then to figure out what are the character arcs that lead to that point, where do the characters end emotionally and where they end physically, in space, and then how do we get there, and what changes do we need to see them go through to get them there in a satisfying way. So we plot the season in this kind of overarching season-long arc, and then you go down in kind of concentric circles and more layers of detail until you're breaking individual episodes. Yeah, I mean, it's all interesting. I mean, I'm just drawn to the interesting characters. I mean, the thing about this world is because it's hopefully grounded, everybody in the world is making these decisions not because they're aware that they're heroes in a comic book. They're making these decisions because I have a family and I need certain things for them to survive, or I just want power, or whatever that is. But everybody is, whether they're siding with the resistance, in Katie's case, or they're choosing to fall into the occupation. In Snyder's case, they have real human reasons behind that. Snyder was kind of disregarded in his previous life and felt like he'd never ascended to this potential that he always thought he had. So when they knocked on his door and offered him this thing, he took it with open arms and really thought that he could get in there and rule the society with a kind hand, and that didn't work out. But within all of that, you see human dimension, right? It's real people making real decisions, and whether you agree with them or not, they are human decisions, and we're all flawed as people, and hopefully our characters are the same. It's so hard to say. I mean, the joke with the World War II is if you talk to any German after World War II and they tell you they weren't a Nazi, and if you talk to a French person after World War II, they tell you they were in the resistance, right? But the truth is much more in the in-between. The resistance was very small, the Nazi Party was very big. And I think people make decisions in the present to do what they need to do to survive. And, it'd be hard to say, honestly, that you wouldn't collaborate or you wouldn't find some way to survive in the middle, which I think is where most of society falls in this case. I mean, to pick up arms and fight against a totalitarian force with science fiction weapons is a pretty bold choice that takes a special kind of person to do it and put your family at risk, the way that Katie did in the first season.